today's video, we're going to be going over 10 tips essential to relinquishing the Shroud and becoming the ultimate Flameborn. I'm your boy Winner Phoenix, and if you like this video and it's helped you in any way, drop a like and a comment below to let us know. Let's get into it. To kick things off, let's talk about what Enshrouded is not. Any survival game you play has food mechanics that can be a pain to manage. You can take DOT damage for not constantly managing your food and water properly. Not Enshrouded. We are the Flameborn. And that means we don't need to eat foods, but that doesn't mean you should ignore it. While you don't need to have stacks of cooked meat in your pockets, you do need to eat and drink for other reasons. No! Oh, this guy's annoying me. You have 3 food slots in the upper left corner. Everything you eat or drink gives you bonuses to your stats. Meat for more HP, water for stamina regeneration, etc, etc. Carefully look over the buffs each food item gives you and plan accordingly. Don't get caught out in a tough fight as a mage with food buffs boosting the wrong stats. It could be the difference between life and death. Another part of Enshrouded that is slightly different than other survival games is the building parts. In most games you slap up 3 walls and a door frame and call it a home, now you're on your way. But not this time. In Enshrouded, you'll need to have a flame altar down first and foremost. Then go to your workbench for a hammer and to make resource blocks that will then be pulled from when building. And let me tell you, the resource demands are not cheap. You will be grinding a lot here. Sometimes that's not a bad thing though, as the grind can sometimes be relaxing. That being said, you will need shelter so that your NPC partners can perform their duties to their fullest potentials. You won't be getting raided in Enshrouded anytime soon, but you also won't unlock the game's full potential either if you don't at least build a shelter for everyone. There's a lot to the building in Enshrouded, but I'll try to cover it all really quickly and efficiently. Here we go. First, you'll need a hammer. Next, set up a workbench to turn your raw resources into blocks. Each block has 100 HP and is tapped from when building with that block's resource. Now with your hammer in hand and blocks in your pocket, you can begin to build. Hit tab to open this menu. Hit alt to open this menu. Roll your mouse through this menu. And roll your mouse to get through this menu too. Now that you have your shape selected, we're ready to build, right? No. Now you gotta hold control and mouse through this menu. This is the last check before putting up any walls because it determines what we build our structure out of. If you make a mistake, hit the right click and it'll go away right after the resources are returned to your pocket. It sounds like a lot, but once you get started, you'll see it's what all building mechanics should strive to be. There's so much more to building that I'll go over in my future build videos, so make sure to like and subscribe if you don't want to miss out on any tips on that. But for now, let's move on. This tip is a bit of a two-parter, but here it is. In any survival game, you gotta be quick on your toes, and sometimes that means sneaking in a quick heal in between face-blocking mobs and bosses. Luckily, I've got just the tip for you. The bandage is very cheap to make and provides a healing over time effect too, but it has a long animation when applying the wrap. Instead, cancel the animation by dodging as soon as you see the green numbers pop up above your head. The healing will be immediate and you'll start to tick up in health as you just dodged a heavy attack. Also, in the name of speed, sometimes we are too quick to want to get out there and get exploring, going so fast that we often run off the cliffside, taking massive fall damage. That is so freaking stupid. I'm done. Well, not anymore. We have gliders in Enshrouded, and they are awesome to get around with. Simply hit the jump button while in midair, gliders sold separately, and the glider will open, letting you coast to the ground. Granted, you have the stamina to hold the glider open that long. If you're not going to make it to the ground before your stamina runs out, then close the glider and open it again once you're closer to the ground. You'll save yourself from lots of fall damage and maybe even death. In Enshrouded, you have the ability to take on an enemy any way you like, but there are a couple of rules that you'll need to know first. First thing is parry attacks. Enemy weapons will flash before striking you. It's often early in their attack animation, so hit that block button when you see it. Successfully landing your parry will not only stop the attack from hitting you, but obviously stun the opponent in place as well, allowing you to follow up with some heavier attacks. Hitting tab in combat locks onto an opponent and allows you to strafe, which is very effective against most enemies as they don't have hit scans or predetermined damage outputs. If they miss, and they are very easy to strafe past. Any Souls player knows what I'm talking about. With just these 2 tips, you can easily beat any content in this game has to offer. You just need to add your own flavor for damage. Number 5 is talking about the Shroud itself and what to expect from it. The Shroud is a fog over the map that only allows a player 5 minutes of access in the beginning before killing them on the spot. There are workarounds for this though. It's easy to keep track of how much longer you have in the Shroud with this giant timer that appears on your screen as you enter the Shroud for the first time. You can find little flasks that replenish your timer or bring in potions to extend your time while in the Shroud. Or, if you can't find any of these things, then simply walk out and let the timer reset. Really, it's that simple. The recovery from the Shroud is very fast, so plan your routes according to your strat and you'll be fine. In the earlier stages, you'll need lots of metal to progress the story, but that's much easier said than done. There aren't any metal nodes lying around waiting to be mined either. Instead, you'll have to collect scrap metal dropped by the enemies in the area. Mainly these guys. They are tough at first, but my prior tips makes them pretty much a cakewalk. Each person drops anywhere from 1 to 5 in my experience. Also, destroying any metal-like objects in the wild, like vases or braziers. They will break down into scrap metal as well. You'll need a lot of this stuff, so be mindful when out and about. This next tip is important to me because it took me a few hours to figure this one out. In your workbench, you'll get recipes for things like beds, storages, and doors, but there are more options than that. Once in the workbench, look for any item with a number at the end of it. That number is letting you know that there are more options to pick from and how many there actually are. To access them, look at the top of the windowed image. These little icons pop up when there's more options to choose from. Bigger chests, nicer beds, and double doors are all here in these little tabs. Throughout your adventures, you're going to be picking up lots of different types of weapons, but the bow might be a little bit different. While you can go through this game with a little bit of range, it's nice to have it when you do need it. Equipping a bow will allow you access to it via a hotkey. Just hit the Q key on your keyboard and your bow comes up automatically. You don't have to select it like your main weapon and can whip it out mid-combat to pop off some shots from afar. You will need to keep arrows on you, but once the bow is up and drawn, you can middle mouse wheel through your ammunition before each shot for maximum effectiveness. Resin is another resource you'll need, but can be hard to come by without a little tip. Luckily, that's number 9 for you, and it's you want to search for the golden trees. Really, any tree minus the ones in the Shroud would drop resin for you, but the golden trees drop much more. Use a felling axe when cutting trees down to preserve your main weapon's durability so it doesn't break on you in mid-combat because you were out having a rough farm session. This last tip is a reflection of Keen Games' eco-friendly business model, as there is absolutely no littering in Embervale. Like, seriously, try to throw some trash loot on the ground, I bet you can't do it. As the new mayor of Greensvale, you will have to recycle those unwanted items into salvageable parts or simply click on them in your bag and click on delete on your keyboard and done. Gone forever. Luckily, I'm not leaving that soon because I've got so much more to show you guys. If you want spicy and articulate structure designs, I'm your man. You want tips on fighting some of the hardest bosses in the game, I'll be your Huckleberry. I even got tips and tricks for chicks and dicks.
Hey yo, what the